is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Friday, there he is. Ira, how are you feeling this morning, my friend? You feeling good?
I am doing good. I'm about 90 minutes away from a Udonis Haslem press conference up here at Nova Southeastern University. He's going to announce some grants his foundation is giving out, and we're going to ask him questions he probably doesn't want to answer right away. So it probably will be somewhat of a newsworthy day for the Miami Heat a little later. We'll talk about it again Wednesday on our Red Recover Inside the Paint show. But you know, that's sort of what the Heat are waiting for. Are you or aren't you? Even I think, Big O, you would agree, the whole world believes he's coming back because there's something magic about that number 20 season to play 2 decades, same team in the NBA.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. He's going to be back unless there's a development of some young pieces. And in the end, I think there'll be a trade. So there'll be lesser players on this roster. So I think it won't be that bad of a deal when it's all said and done, because eventually they will make a move and they'll probably have to give up multiple pieces in order to acquire any one piece. So there'll be spots available. So I don't think it's going to be nearly as tight as it has been in the past. What I will say that Udonis Haslem has never done, but KD has, is he's ruined the game. That's exactly it. He's having fun on social media. He is back, as agenda on Twitter goes to him. Without a doubt, Kevin Durant, your legacy dog, left the game in worse shape than you found it. Shaking my head. And so he makes an appearance and he says, I #ruined the game. He's back, Ira.
Yeah, you know what? Again, there was also another post, which I know you can't put up because he deleted, talking about whether he's just going to get off social media and get rid of his Twitter account, which he would have been better off. Because I think, again, he responds to people on Twitter that don't even have the check mark. You know, it used to be you'd have an egg next to your name. You didn't have a picture there. So think about the depths. I mean, and you do the same thing, Big O. You go through your Twitter. You see someone, you probably click on his profile. Is this guy worth responding to or not? And you look and the guy has 4 followers or something like that. That's the difference. And Kevin Durant lets it get so personal that I think, number one, that's part of his problem. And number two, no, he hasn't ruined the game. And he hasn't ruined the game for this reason. There have been so many NBA players who have forced their way out and gone elsewhere, right? Shaquille O'Neal forced his way out.
Yeah.
Shaquille
Shaq was all over the place.
Forced his way out from Kobe to come here. Hey, Kevin Garnett was no saint. He realized he was going nowhere in Minnesota, got his way to Boston. Kevin McHale, of course, helped him out, won a championship in Boston, realized the Celtics were rebuilding, forced his way over to go to Brooklyn for what ultimately didn't work. This league is replete with players who have won championships much because of their own doing. Look, Jimmy Butler did it in Chicago to a degree with Fred Hoiberg, certainly in Minnesota, and then obviously free agency is different than forcing your way out, but did the same thing. You could even look at Kyle Lowry and saying he didn't want to stay for the makeover or the rebuild. So we went to Masai Ujiri and said, hey, get me to a contender. That's what this league is about. It's different than in a lot of other sports, but it's whether you say LeBron started it and the big 3 started it, that's where the NBA is right now.
But see, here's where Kevin becomes different than everyone else. One, he's the latest, so social media is at its biggest.
Sure.
Here's another example. Whenever you want to slice it, the move to Golden State was a sucker move to a majority of competitive sports fans. The equivalent would have been MJ joining the Pistons after the 90s playoffs. Unfortunately, you will never live that one down. And then he answers back, so I'm MJ now. That's not a bad comparison. Thank you. And that's the problem now. He is also responding to the criticism. Yes. He fuels the fire. Unlike when Shaq was moving all over the place, one, he wasn't really going back and forth on Twitter. It wasn't nearly as powerful as it is now, social media. And so he's in the middle of this storm, yet he's also the driving force of the storm. Instead of just, Tua has his detractors, right? but he never responds to anybody. So
Very private.
it either
Yeah.
lives or it dies on its own. He's not the one that's like putting gas on the fire. And I think that's the problem with Durant. The difference is we've seen he's a, you know, burner accounts and everything. This is a different superstar than we've ever seen. This is a ultra sensitive, a publicly ultra sensitive superstar. And that's something that's actually very dangerous for him. And that's why this whole thing has been fueled so badly.
You know, but Big O, I want to take you to something because I heard you before the rejoin talking about you're going to talk about soccer and other things later. I actually was at the Inter-Miami game on Saturday. But as someone like you who follows soccer, it is very typical for players to chase better situations. A player will leave a team because he wants to play in the Champions League, and he'll move on from a second-tier team. A player will leave a team when they are relegated because he wants to contend for something. I think it was Aronson from the USA national team went to Leeds United only after they avoided relegation last season from the Premiership, and they stayed up there. So when it comes to things like soccer and the biggest sport of all, this happens all the time. This happens. We've seen it with Neymar and so many other players. They want to be in a better place. If this was a soccer situation, no one would say anything. This is the beautiful game, the biggest sport.
Yeah, but Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi or Neymar aren't going back and forth on Twitter with fans on this. That's the problem. That's the difference.
And that's
they're not taking this personal, even though you're always going to piss some group off because you're leaving their effing team, dude, or you chose not to sign with their team or whatever it is. So in the process, you're going to piss people off. You can't be responding to them all the time.
And I can't tell you how many times I've spoken to Heat people right to the highest level, and they just wish their players would drop social media. Because instead, you have people on the Heat who have to scour everywhere, Instagram, TikTok, and everything, to try to sort of get a read on the next exploding time bomb. And these players, they just think that they have to go in this direction, and it's just sort of sad, you know, to have to monitor all this extra stuff and to have to be that insecure. That's the one thing I don't understand, Big O, is the insecurity of these players. Kevin Durant has it all. Who cares what Joe B. Nobody at Twitter.com is saying? Who gives a crap? Matter of fact, Big O, I'm going to take it further. You have a very large Twitter account. You usually go back, you read your mentions, you're very good at interacting. But at some point, you'll just go down, scroll, and go troll, troll, troll.
Right.
I'm not going to give this guy the time of day. Omar Kelly's been a little different than me in that he responds to everyone. He gets himself into some kerfuffles. I try to stay out of that. God bless Omar and his next venture. So that's the thing is you have to sort of be a professional when it comes to your social media also. That's the thing I don't get. NBA players before every season meet with a media specialist. They go over things, the do's, the don'ts, the posts, the don't post. Michael Beasley, work out all you want. Don't put a big bag of weed next to you in the photograph. It's probably going to lead to some problems. Michael Beasley once told me he was going to delete his Twitter account because he didn't have enough followers. Who the hell gives a rat's ass when people are paying you millions of dollars a year? But it just shows one thing to all the listeners here at the Big O Show and the Acura Pembroke Pines Report and out there. These guys share a lot of the same insecurities that we do, even with the money, even with the fame. And no one has shown that more recently than Kevin Durant.
Yeah. No, it's just an odd deal going on with Kevin. All right. I'm looking at this story, and it's an interesting story, but it's something that it's going to lead me to ask you what are we like in Vegas? The NBA is going to be probably the last sport to walk into Vegas, when, baffling to me, I thought it would have been the first, because I'm watching the Summer League, how it explodes every year and it gets loaded and the vibe and all. And plus Vegas as a city, it's grown enough to maybe support a thing like basketball, and it hasn't happened. Well, now I'm looking at this and I'm going, is this going to happen to me again? The National Basketball Association is continuing its international expansion efforts by opening an NBA park in Brazil November, which will represent the league's largest fan destination in the world, operated by a local theme park Nacional Parque Basquete Brasil, the 3-store, 4,000 plus square meter state-of-the-art entertainment center in Gramado, Rio Grande do Sul, will include virtual reality experiences, an NBA store, NBA-themed restaurant, photo opportunities, yada, 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 more, more, more. All right. So I'm hearing that, you know, the NFL eventually might be thinking of that European expansion, which I think makes a lot of sense, that they put 2 or more teams in Europe, not one. I say you got to put 2 so you can have a practice facility out there and teams can go out there for a couple of weeks and play both teams and then come back and all that kind of stuff. But I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here? When is the NBA going to go international? Because if there's a sport that is primed for international play, and it's also maybe get some of the deadbeat cities that may be carrying an NBA team, you can maybe expand, move them or something. When is the NBA going to expand internationally? Because I think that's the next frontier. And that's the next frontier of producing even more revenue for this league, because this is the league that has more international players outside of baseball, pretty much.
I don't think they will expand internationally for this reason. And you sort of answered it there in your NFL comparison. When you play a sport once a week, it's easier to build in that level of travel and handle it that way, because you have the whole week to travel and get ready and acclimate. You make long trips now, Miami to Seattle, something like that, you know, with transportation to Europe, not that much longer of a flight. But in the NBA, where you're playing 4 games a week, it's really hard to build a schedule where this week they'll only play 1 game because they're doing the Brazil trip. The NBA has been very good about setting up markets with exhibition games, with regular season games, with visits to make it special. I would think.
What about a European division? That way you kind of go out there.
I don't think, you know what? It's hard enough to get the players to agree to play in Toronto. In a free agency league, a little different than the NFL. In a free agency league, I think you can have trouble convincing players, especially older players with children in school and things like that, to go overseas and play there. It's been very hard to get them in Europe. And the NBA had an initiative where they wanted to try Mexico. And if you remember, they put a G League team in there. Then COVID came. They played all their games in the States. The Heat are playing December 17th, a regular season game against the Spurs in Mexico City. The schedule will be announced later this week. They have that. I think the NBA is very smart. I think what they could do is this, Big O. You know how Adam Silver's been talking about a midseason cup, about having some sort of trophy like we see, you know, the FA Cup and the Premiership and things like that? Sure. I could see him doing this, building it up in Brazil or somewhere like that, and saying the Final Four of Copa NBA will be played in Brazil this season. So you can build it up. You can have an interest. Only 4 teams would be involved in that trip. It would come during a natural break in the schedule for the NBA Cup anyway. I think that's where Adam Silver's going. You could do the same thing in Europe. You could play a cup schedule, and for 2 weeks in January, your Final Four are going to Paris or to London or to Germany or somewhere, Spain, and play your games there. As far as the NBA goes, though, I do think when you mention Vegas, I don't think it's a matter of coming in last. I think it's something else. Orlando, you're old enough to remember this. Remember when spring training in Florida was a big deal? It was everything. Yeah, man. You were up in Fort Lauderdale. You were in Melbourne.
Me and my dad would scramble to get down to Miami Baseball Stadium to buy our Phillies Orioles, because I was a Schmidt guy and my team was the
Maduro Stadium, right?
Yeah, and then his was the Yankees. So we would buy any of the Phillies and Yankees games at the Orioles, and then we go up to the Yankees, and then we'd get whatever the Phillies would go there.
And you have all your teams. And then what happened was a team arrived in Miami. They're still here for people who don't know. There is a Miami baseball team. And the team went to Tampa and had really good success there. That's where the other half of spring training was. And spring training has never quite been the same. People are saying, you know what? I could see nobody play in the B team in St. Lucie, or I can go see a major league game 2, 3, 4 weeks from now.
And interleague play has also ruined it too.
And you have that to a degree. So what
we didn't remember, you and I grew up with, you know, the National League and the American League never played. So when you saw them just in spring training,
that was the only chance you got.
It was a treat. You know what I'm saying?
That was the only Orioles visit down here would be in Miami. The only Yankees visit down here would be in Fort Lauderdale. You're right. I'm not so sure the NBA wants to kill the golden goose yet. You were out at Summer League this year. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of fans over a 2-week thing. And I think the NBA has the golden goose there. And I could see the NBA going a little bit more to this. San Antonio's doing it this season. San Antonio Spurs asked the NBA, can we play some games in Austin, Texas, please? Can we play some games again downtown at the Alamo Dome? Can we play some games in Monterrey and Mexico City to expand our base? I think it's very smart. In a sport where you play 41 home games, to take 5 games off of every team's schedule and have a satellite home.
In their case, not everybody has that luxury or that kind of a base. Yeah,
I could see a Lakers or a Clippers or even a Jazz or someone doing 5 Vegas home dates. We used to see that. The Jazz used to play some games down there also.
But not in Tijuana, right? Because we're having some issues in Tijuana.
Yeah, I'll stay away from the border state of someone there. So I could see the NBA saying, you know what? We're going to have 30, maybe 32. They do expand, but let's have some satellite markets also. I think baseball should go in that direction. We've seen teams for a while do that. Remember the Marlins played games in Puerto Rico and they expanded a little. I think it's really tough in baseball to force 41 home games on a season ticket plan, and even in basketball to force 41 home games for their fans. I think that's the direction to go. Then you could set up a Brazil trip for a team that
I was thinking of a Paris. I was thinking of a Paris, Berlin, London, Barcelona type of division.
And you know what?
You're not far from each other there in travel and everything.
Sure. And just like Fort Lauderdale is the Naples of Florida or something like that, you could have your satellite city and the Heat will play 5 games in their satellite city. I think that's the way to go. Then you open broadcast rights in those cities also. You can market in those cities. You can have team stores in those cities. But when I look at Vegas and how gold the goose is right there, for the NBA, I'm not sure you want to, in the short term, do that. We know there, at least in the David Stern era, there was a feeling if a city lost a team unjustly, he would make good for them. He did that to Charlotte when they came back as the expansion Bobcats and they took the Hornets name back. Seattle's always had that feeling. And Portland's been so isolated in the Northwest. Once the Vancouver Grizzlies moved to Memphis, Seattle makes all the sense in the world. So I could see another Western city or two in expansion if the NBA teams are willing to give up 1/32nd of the cut instead of 1/30th right now with the new TV deals. But this league has more money than it knows what to do with. It's in great financial hands with Adam Silver. So I do think you'll be seeing more out-of-market games and definitely 2 expansion teams added at some point.
All right. Finally, I guess, do the people in the NBA know something that we don't, that the Heat and Riley aren't going to land any kind of whale or anything? Because Christmas Day has come and Christmas Day has gone, and the Miami Heat are not included. It's Bucks, Celtics, Sixers, Knicks, Suns, Nuggets, Lakers, Mavs, Grizz, Warriors. No Miami Heat. How should we look at it, Ira, as you enjoy the day off?
The NBA looks at the Miami Heat as a milquetoast, non-sexy team, even though it's in the NBA's sexiest market. And Big O, I've had a chance to see some of the schedule, and it's going to come out probably on Wednesday. When you see the lack of national broadcasts for the Miami Heat, you are going to be blown away. And it's interesting. When I spoke to Kurt Heelan last week on our Ready to Recover Inside the Paint show at 9 a.m. on Wednesdays, he said, no, you'll see plenty of Heat. And they should. This team has been in the Eastern Conference Finals 2 of the last 3 years, has been to within 1 shot of the NBA Finals this year, but they're not viewed as sexy. Jimmy Butler is viewed as a grunt-like workman player. Bam Adebayo, a grunt-like workman player. Kyle Lowry is a veteran with a lot of junk in the trunk, but not necessarily a sexy product out there. And you know what, Big O? As much as it might bother Heat Nation not to have the national broadcast, there is no team that thrives more with a chip on its shoulder than Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley's team down here. This will be unbelievable fuel as we watch. The maximum is 20. As we watch 20 Knicks national broadcast every year and go, do people really find Julius Randle that fascinating? It's about the market size. It's about the sexy teams or not. And you're going to see so much Lakers when I get home from Heat games on the late night broadcast. It just is what it is. But in the NBA's view, the Heat are just a non-sexy product. And I do think that's absurd.
All right. One more thing. All right. So you
Sure.
gave us a little nugget there. You dropped a little nugget that the Heat aren't going to be a lot on national television. Is there any truth that Kyle Lowry will come out to the music of Sir Mix-a-Lot and Baby's Got Back?
You know what? I don't care if he does. I learned what urban slang thick meant when I heard him with Vince Carter. I don't give a rat's butt what Kyle Lowry looks like. I care what he looks like on the court and how he plays. And you know what? When you might say Baby Got Back, whatever, or I like big butts, I ain't gonna lie. If he does what Tim Hardaway did with Tim Hardaway's big butt and gets himself into the freaking Hall of Fame and his Heat number retired, I have no issue with appearances. I covered the Gators back. You don't even remember the days. They used to have a player called Demetrius Hill. Big old guy, got him to the NCAA tournament. I don't care what a player looks like off the court. I care what he produces on the court. And I do think that Kyle Lowry is fed up with how he was portrayed last season, is angry, downright angry at Pat Riley for the way he called him out. And I think he will come back with a vengeance. We don't know about his personal problem, how much that'll take him off the court. Well, we all deal with that, and that's a shame. But I think he'll be motivated. I think between the schedule, between Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra calling out Lowry, but because of the way the season ended last season, because of Bam not getting his All-Defensive Player of the Year respect and things like that, yeah, this team's going to have a lot of chip on shoulder. I think we'll come out with a lot of good fodder during training camp coming into the season with this team.
And 30 million more reasons why he should be motivated. All right, what are you working on there in the Sun Sentinel so folks can check you out?
Look, I'm going to ask Udonis Haslem coming back for another season today at noon at Nova.
Come on, old man. Are you coming back for 20 or what? And
you know what? And really, he needs to say something for this reason. Or else you can sign another power forward. You can bring Markieff Morris back. You can add another body. Right now, if Udonis Haslem comes back, there will be $200,000 below the luxury tax line. They won't have room for another player. It's almost not fair to another player if he's not coming back, not to say it, where you could make a move where he could bring in one of the prospects you saw out with the team in Vegas, and instead of an Exhibit 10 contract, give him a standard contract. Let Hayward Highsmith know, hey, the minutes are there for the taking for you at power forward. So look, exactly 1 year ago today, and I checked this, on August 15th, 2021, the Miami Heat announced that Udonis Haslem was coming back for a 19th season. 1 year later, it would be nice to hear that. Just to clarify that, I'll be posting a story later at sunsentinel.com and on your doorstep whenever they decide to deliver it on Tuesday morning when I talk to Udonis later.
Yeah, and on Wednesday, you're going to be on the recover.com Inside the Paint show with Kurt Heelan. When you see Udonis Haslem, all right, tell him, I've been, the natural yarmulke. I'm trying to fill it in here with my Red Recover hat. Well, he's got these patches all over the place. Tell him I got a Red Recover hat that might help him out there to fill in those patches. I know he's trying to hang on. I can feel it. I can relate. So just tell him that I have a Red Recover hat that maybe might fill in those patches.
Hey, I'll take a picture of him with my red filter and just let him know he looks good in red. So we'll do what we can, Big O.
All right, Ira. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate
Talk to you guys
there
Wednesday,
you go.
And Friday, and another Acura Pembroke Pines report. Thanks, Big O.
Thank you, sir. That's Ira Winderman right there, baby, on our Acura Pembroke Pines Miami Heat and NBA report.
This is the Big O Show. This is